My name is Colin Anderson, and I play Moritz Stiefel.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Hogan, and I'm playing Vendela in Spring Awakening.
My name is Brian Muller, and I'm playing Melchior Gabor in Spring Awakening.
My name is Shannon McMillan, and I play Ilsa in Spring Awakening.
Moritz is by far the most troubled person in the show. He struggles so much with puberty and learning about sex, and something that I really recognize with also is being a bad student, and he indeed gets screwed over within the story and works really hard, and his mind is just jumbled. He is an absolute definition of adolescent puberty.
Melchior is an interesting kid. He's a bit ahead of his time. His parents are very liberal, and they let him explore and let his curiosity free. So he is very well read for his age, and he knows a whole lot more about, human anatomy and history and different philosophies than any of his classmates, because most of his classmates are very sheltered.
Working with Brian, really that's where my interaction roots from. He's by far the lead of the show, leading the entire show. And it's just like, without him, I wouldn't really have material, because all of my character development comes out when I'm, asking him things. I ask him so many questions. He is the almighty. He knows. He is the adult of our boys, He's the young adult that is so smart. He's so insightful and gives advice, and has such a warm place in his heart for Moritz because of how troubled he is and how much he confides in Melchior.
Moritz and Melchior's relationship is really interesting, because Moritz is perhaps the most unprepared for this type of knowledge. The things that are happening with his body, the type of thoughts that he's been having have been totally racking his brain, and he hasn't been able to sleep, and he just has no idea what the hell is going on. And he and Melchior have this special bond where Melchior has so many of these answers, and Moritz is so desperate to find them that they help each other out, and they kind of, through that and through their relationship, develop this great love for each other.
Also, he finds comfort in Ilsa. That's towards the end, right before Moritz's character takes a turn.
They were in school together as young kids. They probably grew up together, I'm assuming. Moritz has a very dark side to him. He has a lot of struggles he's dealing with, and Ilsa certainly went through a lot before she ran away, and I think that they empathize with each other a lot, and there's a connection that they have that's very deep.
Yeah, so Melchior and Vendela Bergman, who is played by Stephanie Hogan, they meet in the woods. There's this mutual attraction there, but Vendela doesn't really know what it means. Melchior thinks he knows what it means because he's well read, but at the same time, this is the first time he's ever kind of felt this way towards an actual person who might feel that way towards him.
Working with Brian, in such an intimate setting, like this whole play takes place in that intimate, vulnerable, shaky ground. You have to be able to trust everyone that you're working with, because if the trust isn't there, you're not going to be able to be vulnerable, which means you can't really be truthful, which is, I think, is the essence and foundation of acting.
We still do a good job of capturing that young, excitable energy that a 16-year-old would have when left alone and doesn't really know what he's doing.
My relationship with the adults is interesting because in the show, Luke Johnson plays the adult male, and Stephanie Gilmore, who plays the adult female, they play 17 different characters. I think Luke plays 17. I don't know if Stephanie plays as many.
They play people's parents, the teachers, the principals, anyone that you can think.
The adults play such an important role in the show. They are kind of the overarching, antagonists, I'd say, even though they're kind of the villainous characters, even though they're just trying to abide by the rules. And that has been, that relationship that I have with my mother sets up the entire play. That conflict is the first thing that you see. the fact of the child wanting to understand where do babies come from, and the mom saying, no, 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 that's not appropriate. That's not appropriate. You shouldn't be thinking about that until you're ready to get married.
Melchior has a pretty tumultuous relationship with most of the adults because he's not very keen on the establishment, and he says things that get him in trouble, and he oversteps his boundaries according to them. And so there's definitely a lot of tension between my interactions with most of the adult characters.
I like working off the adults because my whole journey as Moritz, failing school, and the character arc relies on them.
There's the schoolroom boys who are all kind of going through this teenage, discovery period, and everyone is playing the different ways how they deal with it. It's really fun to play with them in Bitch of Living. We just get to rock out, and everyone kind of gets to really express what's going on underneath this kind of rigid classroom. All of a sudden it explodes to see what's the underbelly of what these kids are really going through.
I love all the girls' scenes. The girls' scenes are so fun because we're just talking about boys the whole time. Except when March is like, oh, look at I get beaten. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, you get beaten. It's scary. But then Venla's really interested by it, so that's interesting too.
My character doesn't really get to interact with the girls on stage, but they do a great job of capturing that young female giddiness over boys and what they should be doing in their weddings and what they're, all that kind of stuff, which is juxtaposed nicely with that kind of anger of the boys' side.
I just always think, I'm just I can't believe that this is my job. It was funny because when Brian and I first started getting good at the sex, there was one night when I was like, I can't believe this is my job. I'm getting paid to just make out on stage. How awesome is that?
Well, obviously, the biggest person I have to work off of is Brian, plays Melchior. He's awesome. He's been an actor for his whole life. He's from Pittsburgh. He goes to school at Carnegie Mellon, and as well as Stephanie Hogan does, who plays Vendla, and they are just great East Coast folks.
It was nice. We were definitely friends in school, and we would hang out every now and then. But transferring it into where we're scene partners and we're working very closely and intimately together. There's a definite type of trust that you have to have with that person, and I think that we've been trying to develop that and just work off of each other and be very open with each other, and it's been great. He's a great scene partner. He's awesome.
I think our two romantic leads, Stephanie and Brian, are so clear-spoken and honest and strong, and they're just great leaders of our company.
It's really nice to work with Brian because, good eye contact, good natural conversation within acting is just something to be blessed by, and we have a great time, and I love doing our scenes. They're so real and heartfelt, and everyone's so into it.
Everyone here is a very dedicated and hard worker. I noticed Colin. He is, first of all, his voice is insane. It's insane. He can belt up into the stratosphere and back down to the basement. It's amazing.
I actually never really interact with Stephanie, who plays Vendla. We don't talk to each other throughout the show until the end of the show. And so I haven't got to work with her a lot, but she's absolutely fantastic, beautiful girl, and really embodies the youth of Vendla and sings so well. And we share a duet towards the end of the show, and it's very, very nice, even though we're not really interacting with each other too much, more so Melchior.
Colin Anderson he's so committed, he's so dedicated, he so truly honors that character. Moritz is such a troubled boy that you could easily write off, but he finds the endearing qualities about him, and you can't help but love him and just be fighting for him the whole show.
He is such a hard worker. He's giving it 10% every single time he does it, and that pushes me to, I got to go full force. Even times when I'm like, oh, I'm tired and getting much sleep last night, or like my voice isn't feeling right, or oh, I messed up that word. And sometimes when you mess something up, it can pull you out. I'm like, no, he's so dedicated, and he's like just throwing himself into the fray, and I'm just like, he can do that, I can do that. So he's a great guy.
Shannon was my mom in Next to Normal. We have such a great relationship, and that chemistry is still, even transitioning from mother-son to, love interest almost, it still is magical working with her. She is, such a treat for the Crown every show she does. And I just, every night to do our scene, I look forward to it very much.
It's been interesting last summer doing Next to Normal with him as my son. And it was just instant connection with him. How can you not love him? And so it's been fun to come back this year and to have a completely new relationship with him, to not have a mother-son love, if you will. It's wonderful because he is quite dreamy, so it's not been too difficult.
Working with Luke, he's a good friend of mine. He's our house manager, and he was, our house manager for Next to Normal, and he just was Wilbur in Hairspray, and so me and Luke have gotten close, and it's really, really, he's such a cool guy, and we are such bros that when we have our abusive scene, that it's tough, and, it looks pretty real, and it really brings it out of you, and acting is always a part. There's no ever real fighting, so, having to act like he's such an evil guy is really interesting.
I'm also very honored I get to sing with Natalie Swanner, who I think has one of the most beautiful angelic voices.
James is amazing. I mean, we learned the entire music for the show, I think, in 2 days, but probably, 5 hours.
James has been great. He's expects the best out of everyone. And you have to be on your stuff when you're around him.
James Dobinson, our music director, is just fantastic. Just gets stuff done, and he is a special man because he knows so much about computers on top of his music. He was classically trained in opera and voice, and he loves doing musicals and rock and stuff like that. But all this music, there's a lot of sound effects and synthesizers and stuff that is coming from his computer that are just like the original Broadway recording on the CD, which is brilliant. And he can control a band as well as his computer and conduct and play piano all at the same time. I don't know how he does it. He's a master. We're using a click track, which is really difficult, really, really, truly difficult to do, and he just owns it. Every night, the band sounds incredible. Our musicians sound amazing.
Yeah, the set is beautiful. I think it's fantastic. You have that beautiful rake back there, goes all the way up, and we play with that a lot. People are jumping off of that and jumping down it, and we have the 2 chairs on the sides that kind of represent characters when they're more isolated. When they're feeling very alone, they'll generally be up on those chairs, removed from everyone else. And it's also a great thrust stage in that we're right in the audience. We're right. We have people all around us, and so we kind of really bring it into the audience. And then the lighting is beautiful. We have these great lamps that lower down, and in some of the more dark, ominous scenes, they light up very dimly, and it just creates a beautiful color palette up there.
I saw this show on Broadway, and it blew my mind. I'm 4th row center. Seeing John Groff just spit all over the front row of people, it was inspiring, and I love the music. It's just very edgy, just like Next to Normal, all about it, and beautiful set, as you can see. And it was such a quick turnaround from Hairspray. It was very, very intense, but it's so wrenching, just gut-wrenching, and it's a great piece, and it's one of my favorite shows, and I'm enjoying it so much.
Usually in the Broadway production, or how it was done on Broadway, was that there was nudity and it was kind of very explicit. And you can go either way with this show, in that you can kind of bring out that quality, and you can kind of make it that real for an audience, but you actually see skin in that way, or you can play it down, and you can let the act speak for itself, and that's what we've chosen to do.
Piece, the Crown is challenging Wichita. It's challenging its audience. It's exciting. See how open you are, but it's maybe because it's live and it's actual performers up there, but it's no different than anything you'd see on a TV, that you would read, that you'd see in a magazine, especially movies. I mean, my gosh, you see everything there. But maybe because it's so up close and personal, that's maybe where the uncomfortability lies. I'm not sure why there isn't that same acceptance with theater sometimes. I don't, but I think it's wonderful. I think hopefully this will be a wonderful continuation after the success of Next to Normal was, and a chorus line. Maybe they can keep pushing the envelope a little bit more and more and more. Still honor those classics, those classical musicals. Everyone loves Annie. How can you not? But we've all seen it, and it's exciting to just be taken outside of the familiar. And what I love about it is it subtly deals with issues that are a part of our everyday life, things that we are all familiar with if they haven't affected us personally. Again, we know someone that they probably have, and it's those issues that we don't necessarily want to talk about, those things that we are raised to just let subside. And so I love this show because it addresses that, and it makes you just a little bit uncomfortable. But it's so familiar that there's a lot of humor, and you're like, gosh, I remember being a 13-year-old, 14-year-old, and I was there, I lived that, and I wish that I could have felt like there was someone with me that understood. But it's done with a lightness, and the music is amazing, to say the least. I don't even know how to begin to describe that. But I love it because at the end of a show, the audience sits there, and you see them. It's not a spring to your feet, standing ovation type of show. It's a sit there, and they just are still soaking in it, I think. And then they slowly get up, and you just see them, they just can't wait to talk about it. And I love theater that ignites a dialogue